Imagine a city so magnificent that ancient texts described it as being built from gold, crystal, and precious gems. A city with massive walls that touched the sea, and harbors filled with ships from distant lands. A city ruled by one of the most powerful and mysterious figures in ancient mythology. But according to legend, this city did not fall to war. It did not crumble from time. Instead, it vanished beneath the ocean. Some say it happened overnight. Others say the sea slowly swallowed it. For centuries, historians believed this story was nothing more than mythology. But then, divers exploring the waters off the coast of India made a discovery that would shock the archaeological world. Stone structures, ancient anchors, ruins beneath the sea. Could these be the remains of a legendary city? Could the mythical kingdom of Krishna have actually existed? And if it did, what really happened to it? This is the mystery of the lost underwater city of Dwarka. The story of Dwarka begins thousands of years ago in ancient India. Its story appears in one of the longest epic texts ever written, the Mahabharata. According to the epic, the powerful kingdom of Mathura faced constant threats from invading enemies. To protect his people, Krishna made a bold decision. He would build an entirely new city, not inland but by the sea. A magnificent fortress city that enemies could never easily invade. Ancient texts describe how this city was constructed by a divine architect known as Vishvakarma. Under Krishna's command, the new city rose along the western coast of India. Its name was Dwarka. According to the scriptures, Dwarka was unlike any other city on earth. It contained enormous gates made of shining metals, grand palaces decorated with jewels, wide roads filled with merchants, warriors, and travelers, and harbors that welcomed ships from across the ancient world. Some texts describe Dwarka as having hundreds of towers and thousands of mansions. At night, lamps lit the entire city so brightly that it could be seen from miles away across the ocean. For generations, Dwarka became the center of Krishna's kingdom. But the legend says the city's fate was already written. In the later chapters of the Mahabharata, a prophecy begins to unfold. Krishna's earthly life would eventually come to an end. And when it did, something extraordinary would happen. The scriptures claim that once Krishna left the world, the city of Dwarka would no longer remain above the sea. According to the text, the ocean would reclaim the city. Some versions describe a terrifying event. The sea began rising. Waves crashed against the walls, the ground shook, and slowly, the magnificent city disappeared beneath the water. The people fled inland, and Dwarka was gone. For centuries, many scholars assumed this was symbolic storytelling. After all, ancient myths often describe cities destroyed by gods or nature. But one question remained. Why were the descriptions of Dwarka so specific? Why did the texts describe docks, ports, and coastal defenses in such detail? Could the story have been based on a real place? For hundreds of years, Dwarka existed only in myth, but that began to change in the 20th century. Off the coast of modern-day Dwarka, fishermen occasionally reported something strange. Their nets would catch on objects beneath the water. Sometimes they pulled up unusual stones, other times ancient-looking anchors. At first, these discoveries were dismissed. But in the 1980s, a team of marine archaeologists decided to investigate. Leading the expedition was Indian archaeologist S.R. Rao. Using diving equipment and underwater mapping tools, Rao and his team began exploring the seabed. What they discovered was astonishing. Stone blocks arranged in geometric patterns, walls partially buried in sand, large anchors carved from rock. These were not natural formations. They looked like the remains of human structures. Could these be the ruins of the legendary city? As exploration continued, researchers began documenting the underwater site. Divers discovered massive stone structures spread across a large area of the ocean floor. Some formations resembled harbor walls. Others looked like foundations of buildings. There were also stone anchors similar to those used by ancient maritime traders. These anchors suggested that ships once docked here. If true, it would mean this location had once been an active port city. Even more intriguing, some artifacts recovered from the seabed appeared extremely old. Fragments of pottery, stone tools, and carved blocks that might have once been part of ancient architecture. To many researchers, these findings were exciting. But they also raised serious questions. Was this truly the legendary Dwarka? Or was it simply another ancient coastal settlement? Not all historians were convinced. Some scientists argue that underwater structures can form naturally. Ocean currents and erosion sometimes create formations that resemble walls or buildings. Others question the dating of the artifacts. Were they truly thousands of years old? Or had they been moved by currents over time? Supporters of the Dwarka theory believe the site matched the ancient descriptions remarkably well. The location, the coastal structures, the presence of ancient anchors, all seem to point toward a lost maritime city. But proving that it was Krishna's Dwarka would require far more evidence. Still, one thing had become clear. Something ancient had once existed beneath those waters. Something large, something mysterious. But the greatest mystery had yet to be revealed. When scientists began studying the artifacts recovered from the seabed, some dating results shocked researchers. Because if those dates were correct, the underwater city might be far older than anyone expected, older than many known civilizations. Possibly even thousands of years older than the famous cities of the Indus Valley civilization. If true, it could change what we know about ancient history. But the next discovery would make the mystery even deeper, because what divers found next beneath the Arabian Sea should not have existed there at all. And it would spark one of the biggest debates in archaeology. Was Dwarka truly the lost city of Krishna? Or was something even older hiding beneath the waves? For thousands of years, the story of the legendary city of Dwarka existed only in ancient texts. A magnificent kingdom said to have been ruled by Krishna. A city of towering palaces, massive gates, and bustling harbors. But according to the legend, the entire city disappeared beneath the sea. For centuries, historians dismissed the story as mythology. But then, something unexpected happened. In the waters off the western coast of India, fishermen began reporting strange objects caught in their nets. Heavy stones, carved anchors, artifacts that seemed far older than anyone expected. Soon, scientists would dive beneath those waters. And what they found on the ocean floor would ignite one of the most controversial archaeological debates in modern history. Could the ruins beneath the sea belong to the lost city described in the Mahabharata? Or were they something else entirely? This is the story of the underwater discovery that brought the legend of Dwarka back to life. Long before archaeologists arrived, the first clues came from local fishermen. For generations, fishermen near the coastal city of Dwarka worked the waters of the Arabian Sea. But sometimes, their nets pulled up objects that puzzled them. Large stones with holes carved through the center, unusual triangular blocks. Heavy pieces of rock that clearly did not belong on the seabed. Some of these stones looked like ancient anchors. Anchors used by ships thousands of years ago. The fishermen didn't know exactly what they had found, but word of these discoveries slowly spread. Eventually, these reports reached archaeologists who were studying ancient maritime trade routes along India's western coast. What they heard was intriguing, because according to ancient texts, Dwarka had once been a major port city. If a port city had existed there in the distant past, there might still be traces of it beneath the sea. In the late 20th century, a team of Indian marine archaeologists decided to investigate the mysterious seabed near Dwarka. Leading the expedition was renowned archaeologist S.R. Rao. Rao had spent decades studying ancient civilizations across India. But this project would be unlike anything he had ever attempted. Because this time, the ruins might lie underwater. Using specialized diving equipment and sonar mapping technology, Rao and his team began surveying the seabed. The conditions were difficult. The waters of the Arabian Sea were often murky. Strong currents constantly moved sand across the ocean floor. Visibility underwater was extremely limited. But despite these challenges, the divers soon began to see something unexpected. Large rectangular stones arranged in straight lines. Patterns that looked disturbingly artificial. Natural rock formations rarely form in perfect geometric patterns, but these stones did. Could these be the remains of ancient walls? As the divers continued exploring, they found more than just scattered stones. They discovered entire sections of what appeared to be structures. Some areas looked like massive platforms made of stone blocks. Other areas resembled foundations of buildings. In one location, divers identified formations that looked like harbor walls or docking platforms. This discovery was particularly interesting, because the ancient texts describing Dwarka frequently mention large ports and busy harbors. If these formations were indeed docks, it would mean that ships once arrived here from distant regions. Even more surprising were the stone anchors discovered nearby. These anchors were similar to those used by ancient seafarers across the Indian Ocean trade network. Some anchors had 3 holes carved into them, a design commonly used in ancient maritime technology. This suggested that a thriving port once existed in this region. But when exactly, that question remained unanswered. During the underwater excavations, researchers recovered several artifacts buried beneath layers of sand. These included fragments of pottery, stone tools, and pieces of carved rock that may have once been part of ancient buildings. Each artifact was carefully studied by archaeologists. They hoped the materials might reveal clues about the age of the site. Some pottery fragments resembled artifacts from ancient coastal settlements in western India, but others seemed older, much older. If these artifacts were truly ancient, then the underwater structures might represent one of the oldest coastal cities ever discovered in South Asia. However, archaeologists needed scientific evidence before making such a claim, and that meant turning to dating methods and geological analysis. As news of the underwater discovery spread, excitement grew. Many believed the ruins might finally confirm the ancient legend of Dwarka, but not everyone agreed. Some scientists argued that the formations might simply be natural rock formations. Ocean currents, erosion, and sediment movement can sometimes create structures that resemble walls or platforms. Others questioned whether the artifacts truly originated from the underwater site. Strong currents could have carried objects from distant locations. If that were the case, the ruins might not represent a city at all. To settle the debate, researchers needed to determine the true age of the artifacts and structures. Only then could they know whether the site matched the time period described in ancient scriptures. And when scientists finally began dating the materials recovered from the seabed, the results would spark an even greater controversy, because some early estimates suggested something astonishing. If the calculations were correct, parts of the underwater structures might be thousands of years older than expected, possibly older than many known cities of the ancient world, older even than settlements connected to the Indus Valley civilization. If true, it would mean that advanced coastal settlements existed in India far earlier than historians believed. But extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. And as scientists began studying the site more closely, a fierce debate erupted. Were the ruins truly ancient? Or had researchers misinterpreted the data? Because if Dwarka really was thousands of years old, what if a lost city beneath the ocean was far older than anyone imagined? Older than the pyramids of Egypt? Older than the earliest cities of Mesopotamia? Possibly even older than the great settlements of the Indus Valley civilization? It sounds impossible. Yet when scientists began analyzing artifacts discovered beneath the waters near Dwarka, some results suggested exactly that. If these results were correct, the underwater ruins might represent one of the oldest urban settlements ever discovered. But not everyone agreed, because dating ancient ruins beneath the sea is one of the most difficult challenges in archaeology. And soon, a fierce debate would erupt among scientists. Was Dwarka truly a lost city from deep antiquity, or had researchers misunderstood the evidence? Tonight, we explore the dating controversy that could change everything we know about ancient history. When archaeologists first discovered underwater structures near Dwarka, one question immediately dominated the investigation. How old were they? Without a reliable date, the ruins could belong to almost any period in history. They might be medieval structures. They might be remnants of ancient ports, or they might be far older. To determine their age, researchers studied the artifacts recovered from the seabed. These included pottery fragments, stone anchors, wooden remains, and other materials buried in marine sediment. Dating these artifacts required multiple scientific techniques. One of the most important was radiocarbon dating. Radiocarbon dating measures the decay of carbon isotopes in organic materials. By studying this decay, scientists can estimate how long ago an object once lived. But there was a problem. Most of the structures found underwater were made of stone, and stone cannot be dated using radiocarbon methods. So researchers had to rely on organic materials found nearby. This would soon lead to a surprising result. Some early samples collected near the underwater site produced unexpected dates. A few materials appeared to be several thousand years old. Some estimates even suggested ages that stretched far beyond the time period traditionally associated with the legendary city of Krishna. If the results were accurate, the ruins might belong to a civilization that existed long before the time described in the epic texts. Such a discovery would be extraordinary, because the earliest known urban civilizations are usually associated with regions like Mesopotamia, Egypt, and the Indus Valley. Cities such as Mohenjo-daro and Harappa date back roughly 4,000 to 5,000 years. But if Dwarka were significantly older, it might represent an entirely different chapter of human civilization. Naturally, these claims attracted enormous attention, but they also raised serious doubts among many scientists. Soon after the dating results were announced, many archaeologists began questioning the conclusions. Their concerns focused on several key issues. First, the ocean is an extremely dynamic environment. Currents constantly move sand, rocks, and debris across the seabed. Artifacts discovered near a structure may not originally belong to that location. An object that appears to be ancient might have been carried there from somewhere else. Second, radiocarbon dating only works on organic materials. If a piece of wood or shell was discovered near a structure, it does not necessarily mean the structure itself is the same age. The material could have been deposited there long after the structure was built. Third, marine environments can contaminate samples. Saltwater, microorganisms, and chemical reactions can affect dating results. Because of these complications, some researchers argued that the early dates might not accurately represent the age of the underwater structures. The debate had begun. Despite the criticism, other researchers believed the discoveries were still extremely significant. One important piece of evidence involved the stone anchors discovered near the site. These anchors resembled ancient maritime anchors found in several historical ports around the Indian Ocean. Their design suggested they were used by seafaring traders long before the medieval period. This supported the idea that the site may once have been a major maritime trading center. Additionally, the geometric patterns of the underwater structures appeared unusually organized: straight lines, right angles, large stone blocks arranged in patterns rarely produced by nature. Such formations strongly suggested human construction. Some researchers argued that even if the structures were not as ancient as the earliest estimates suggested, they still represented a very old coastal settlement, possibly one connected to the legends recorded in the Mahabharata. But to confirm this, more evidence would be required. Another line of investigation focused on geology. Scientists began studying ancient sea levels along the coast of western India. Over thousands of years, the Earth's climate has changed dramatically. At the end of the last ice age, massive glaciers melted across the planet. As a result, sea levels gradually rose. Entire coastal landscapes were flooded. Some researchers propose that ancient settlements once located along the coast may now lie beneath the ocean. If Dwarka had originally been built along an ancient shoreline, it might have been gradually submerged as sea levels increased. This theory offered a possible explanation for the underwater ruins, but it also raised a deeper question. If ancient coastal cities were submerged thousands of years ago, how many other lost settlements might still lie hidden beneath the sea? The dating controversy surrounding Dwarka remains unresolved. Some scientists believe the ruins belong to an ancient port city dating back several thousand years. Others argue the structures could be far older. And some remain skeptical that the ruins represent a city at all. But one mystery remains undeniable. The underwater structures exist, the artifacts are real, and something significant once stood along that coastline. Yet the biggest question has still not been answered. If Dwarka truly existed, what caused the entire city to disappear beneath the sea? Was it gradual flooding? A massive earthquake? Or a catastrophic tsunami? Ancient texts claim the ocean swallowed the city shortly after the death of Krishna. But could such an event actually happen? Across the world, ancient legends speak of cities swallowed by the sea, entire civilizations lost beneath the waves. Among the most famous of these stories is the mysterious underwater city of Dwarka. According to ancient texts, this magnificent coastal kingdom was ruled by the legendary figure Krishna. But after his death, something extraordinary happened. The ocean rose, the land trembled, and the city of Dwarka disappeared beneath the sea. For centuries, historians believed this story was only myth, but modern underwater discoveries suggest something remarkable once stood here, which leads to a chilling question. If Dwarka truly existed, what destroyed it? Was it a slow and gradual flooding? A violent earthquake? Or a catastrophic tsunami powerful enough to erase an entire city? To understand the fate of Dwarka, we must examine the powerful natural forces that have shaped Earth's coastlines for thousands of years. Ancient texts such as the Mahabharata describe Dwarka as a magnificent coastal city. Its location near the ocean was not accidental. The sea offered enormous advantages. It allowed trade with distant lands. Ships could bring goods, metals, spices, and knowledge from across the ancient world. But building a city near the sea also carries a hidden danger. Coastal environments are constantly changing. Shorelines shift, storms reshape the land, and over long periods of time, the ocean can reclaim territory that once belonged to humans. Today, the modern city of Dwarka sits along the western coast of India, facing the vast waters of the Arabian Sea. This coastline has experienced thousands of years of geological change, and some scientists believe these changes may hold the key to the mystery. Around 20,000 years ago, much of the Earth was locked in the grip of the last ice age. Enormous glaciers covered large portions of the planet. Because so much water was frozen in ice, global sea levels were far lower than they are today. Entire coastal regions that are now underwater were once dry land. But as the climate warmed, the glaciers began to melt. Slowly, over thousands of years, the oceans began to rise. Scientists estimate that global sea levels rose by more than 100 meters after the end of the ice age. This gradual rise flooded enormous areas of coastline across the world. Ancient settlements built near the sea may have been slowly submerged. Some researchers believe Dwarka could have been one of these lost coastal cities. If the ancient city was originally built along a shoreline that no longer exists, it might now lie beneath the ocean floor. But rising seas alone might not fully explain the sudden destruction described in ancient texts. For that, we must consider something far more violent. The western coast of India lies near several geological fault lines. These faults are fractures in the Earth's crust where tectonic plates move against each other. When stress builds up along these faults, it can suddenly release enormous amounts of energy. The result is an earthquake. Throughout history, powerful earthquakes have struck this region. One of the most devastating modern examples occurred during the 2001 Gujarat earthquake. The earthquake caused massive destruction across the region and reshaped parts of the landscape. But earthquakes near coastlines can cause even more dangerous effects. They can trigger sudden land subsidence. Entire sections of land may sink. And when earthquakes occur beneath the ocean, they can generate something even more destructive. When the ocean floor suddenly shifts during an earthquake, it can displace enormous volumes of water. This displacement creates giant waves known as tsunamis. Unlike ordinary waves, tsunamis can travel across entire oceans. When they reach the shore, they can rise to terrifying heights and destroy everything in their path. One of the most devastating examples occurred during the 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami. Massive waves struck coastlines across multiple countries. Entire towns were destroyed. Thousands of lives were lost. If a similar event occurred thousands of years ago near Dwarka, it could have devastated a coastal city in a matter of minutes. A powerful earthquake followed by a massive tsunami could explain how an entire city might disappear beneath the sea. But geological evidence for such an event remains difficult to confirm. After thousands of years, many traces of ancient disasters disappear. Still, the possibility remains. Scientists studying the seabed near Dwarka have found signs that the coastline has shifted significantly over time. Sediment layers suggest that parts of the region experienced dramatic environmental changes. Some areas appear to have once been dry land. Others show evidence of ancient marine flooding. This suggests that the coastline has moved repeatedly over thousands of years. In such a dynamic environment, a city built near the shore could easily be destroyed or submerged. But despite these clues, one mystery remains. Ancient texts do not describe Dwarka disappearing slowly. Instead, they describe a sudden and dramatic event. The ocean rising, the city vanishing. Almost as if a catastrophic disaster struck in a very short period of time. Was this simply poetic storytelling? Or could the ancient authors have been describing a real event they witnessed? Today, the underwater ruins near Dwarka remain one of the most intriguing archaeological mysteries in the world. Some scientists believe they represent the remains of an ancient coastal city. Others argue the structures may not be a city at all. But one thing is certain. Something once stood there, something large. Something important enough to leave traces on the ocean floor thousands of years later. Yet the ultimate question still remains unanswered. Was Dwarka truly the legendary city described in ancient scriptures? Or have modern discoveries simply fueled a myth that has grown for thousands of years? For thousands of years, the legend of Dwarka has fascinated historians, believers, and explorers alike. Ancient texts describe a magnificent coastal city ruled by the legendary figure Krishna, a city filled with palaces, towers, and massive gates. A thriving port that connected distant civilizations. And according to the legend, a city that vanished beneath the ocean. For centuries, many believed the story was nothing more than mythology. But then underwater explorers discovered mysterious structures off the coast of Dwarka. Stone blocks, ancient anchors, artifacts buried beneath the seabed. Could these ruins be the remains of the legendary city described in the Mahabharata? Or is the truth more complicated than the legend? Tonight, we uncover the final chapter of the Dwarka mystery. After decades of exploration, archaeologists have gathered several pieces of evidence from the underwater site near Dwarka. Divers have documented stone structures that appear arranged in geometric patterns. Large blocks that resemble walls or foundations. Stone anchors used by ancient ships. And fragments of pottery and tools buried beneath marine sediment. These discoveries suggest that human activity once occurred in this region. But identifying exactly what existed there is much more difficult. Was it a large city, a harbor settlement, or simply scattered remains from ancient maritime trade? To answer these questions, scientists have studied the artifacts carefully. But as we've seen in previous episodes, the results remain controversial. Supporters of the Dwarka theory argue that the discoveries closely match descriptions found in ancient texts. The Mahabharata describes Dwarka as a fortified coastal city with large ports and maritime activity. The location of the underwater structures corresponds closely to where the ancient texts place the city. This coincidence has led some researchers to suggest that the underwater ruins may indeed represent the remains of the legendary kingdom. But there is another complication. The Mahabharata is not only a historical document. It is also a spiritual and mythological epic. The events described in the text combine historical elements with religious storytelling. Because of this, historians must carefully separate symbolic narrative from possible historical events. Still, the similarities between the text and the underwater discoveries remain intriguing. Many scientists remain cautious about linking the underwater ruins directly to the legendary city. They point out several important uncertainties. First, the structures discovered underwater have not yet been fully excavated. Large portions of the site remain buried beneath sand and sediment. Second, natural geological formations can sometimes resemble human construction. Ocean currents and erosion can create patterns that appear artificial. Third, artifacts discovered near the site may not have originated there. Strong currents can move objects across large distances underwater. Because of these factors, some archaeologists believe more evidence is required before identifying the ruins as Dwarka. Scientific caution is essential when investigating extraordinary claims. But even skeptics acknowledge that the site deserves further research. The legend of Dwarka is not unique. Across the world, cultures tell stories of cities lost beneath the sea. Perhaps the most famous example is Atlantis, described by the philosopher Plato. According to Plato, Atlantis was a powerful island civilization that vanished after a catastrophic event. Like Dwarka, the story has fascinated researchers for centuries. Other cultures also tell similar stories. Legends of sunken lands appear in Europe, Asia, and the Americas. These myths may reflect memories of real events. At the end of the last ice age, rising sea levels flooded enormous coastal regions around the world. Ancient settlements built along those coasts may have been lost beneath the ocean. If Dwarka was one of these cities, its story might represent a rare surviving memory of ancient environmental change. Today, underwater archaeology continues to evolve. New technologies allow scientists to explore the ocean floor with unprecedented precision. Advanced sonar mapping, underwater robotics, high-resolution seabed imaging. These tools may one day reveal the full extent of the structures near Dwarka. Large areas of the seabed remain unexplored. Hidden beneath layers of sand could lie buildings, streets, or entire sections of a lost city. Future discoveries may finally answer the question that has puzzled historians for generations. Was Dwarka a real city described in ancient texts? Or has mythology shaped our interpretation of the evidence? For now, the mystery remains open. The story of Dwarka sits at the boundary between myth and history. Ancient texts tell us of a magnificent city ruled by Krishna. Modern explorers have discovered mysterious ruins beneath the sea. Science has provided clues, but not yet a final answer. Perhaps Dwarka was a real city that inspired legend. Perhaps the story grew over centuries into something larger than history itself. Or perhaps the greatest discoveries have yet to be made. Because somewhere beneath the waters of the Arabian Sea, the remains of a forgotten past may still be waiting to be uncovered. And until those secrets rise from the ocean floor, the mystery of Dwarka will continue to captivate the world. The echoes of the past call to the curious. If you wish to continue this journey into the forgotten corners of history, support our exploration. Subscribe to our channel and like this video to help us bring more mysteries to light. Your support is the beacon that guides our quest.